Act 1, Part 1 of The Hoodoo by Walter Ben Hare. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Characters:
Brighton early, about to be married. Read by Greg Giordano.
Billy Jackson, the Heartbreaker. Read by Thomas Peter.
Professor Solomon Spigot, an authority on Egypt. Read by Todd.
Amicus Spigot, his son, aged 17. Read by Adrian Stevens.
Mr. Malachi Meek, a lively old gentleman of 69. Read by Alan Mapstone.
Mr. Dunn, the burglar. Read by Andrew Gauntz.
Miss Amy Lee, about to be married. Read by Rena Zellen-Supe.
Mrs. Parrington Shine, her aunt and Mr. Meek's daughter. Read by M. Lee.
Gwendolyn Parrington Shine, who does just as Mamma says. Read by Jemima Corcoran.
Dodo de Graft, the Dazzling Daisy. Read by Jen Broda.
Mrs. Ima Klinger, the Fascinating Young Widow. Read by Krista Zaleski.
Angelina, her angel child, aged 8. Read by Carol Sutton.
Miss Doris Ruffles, Amy's Maid of Honor. Read by Marie Christian.
Mrs. Semiramis Spigot, the mother of 7. Read by Sonia.
Eupepsia Spigot, her daughter, aged 16. Read by Sarah Hale.
Miss Longnecker, a public school teacher. Read by Lindsay Clark.
Lulu, by name and nature. Read by T.J. Burns.
Aunt Paradise, the Colored Cook Lady. Read by Jacqueline Tyler.
Stage directions read by Michael Max. Time 1912 in late September. Place: Mrs. Parrington Shine's country home about 30 minutes from Philadelphia. Occasion: a house party at the Lee Early wedding. Synopsis: Act 1. The lawn at Mrs. Parrington Shine's country home. An Egyptian wedding present. Trouble for the groom. Act 2. The library at 8 p.m. A thief in the house. Trouble for Billy Jackson, the susceptible. Act 3. The same library at 11 p.m. Trouble for the burglar. Eloped at midnight. The Hoodoo, Act 1, Part 1. Scene: a lawn. Set house rather elaborate, with steps leading to porch down left. Garden backing. Wall runs across stage at back. Arched entrance in wall at centre. Wood wings right and left, with natural boughs attached. Vines on wall with yellow paper roses. Lawn seat down left, surrounded by screen. Large tree down right, with circular seat. This tree may be omitted, and a bower of palms with seat for 2 arranged. Garden table with 2 garden chairs, up right centre. Lights all on. Bright music, maybe a wedding march to take up the curtain. Curtain rises on empty stage. After a slight pause, Lulu enters from the house down left. She stands on the steps with her arms on her hips and views the scene in a disgusted manner.
Just look at this lawn. It's not enough for 'em to be messing up the entire house with spooning in every room of it, and making extra work for me. But they got to come out here and look at the moon.
Comes down centre.
It's got so I have to give this front lawn as much attention as the parlors. I hate wedding parties anyway.
Dusts.
They think that just because you get an extra tip or two, that you can do the work of 20.
Notices screen at left.
Carried out the parlor screen. It's a pity that some folks can't spoon enough in the house. Ah, and look how they've hid themselves in. Must have been afraid someone would have saw 'em. It couldn't have been the bridal couple, for they don't care. It was Billy Jackson and that widow. Or maybe it was Billy Jackson and Gwendolyn. Or Billy Jackson and Doris.
Dusts at left.
He's a wise guy, all right, and keeps the three of 'em guessing who's gonna land the prize. And I'll bet that all the time he's engaged to some girl away from here. Yes, it was him. Here's some cigarette stubs and a little pink chiffon bow. That's from the widow. Huh. No wonder he wanted the screen around him.
Crosses to right.
And this is the bridal bower. No, here's some more of Billy Jackson's cigarette stubs. And a white gauze fan. That's Gwendolyn's.
Puts fan in dress.
That must have been later in the evening.
Arranges pillows on seat at right. Aunt Paradise appears on steps. Aunt Paradise, with arms on hips.
Is they all back from their ride yet?
Not yet.
How many more is coming today, honey?
Lulu, sitting at right.
Well, there's Mr. and Mrs. Spigot. He's a professor from somewhere in Missouri.
Poor relations.
Limps down steps to centre.
And they'll bring a whole bunch of little Spigots.
Aunt Paradise, throwing up her hands in horror.
More chillins! Great day of the trumpet! We's got one child here already, and she's most done upsot the whole house. If one little angel can cause so much devilment, what's gwine happen when we gets a whole house full of little spigots?
Sits left.
Is there any more coming?
Yes. There's a cowboy coming from Texas.
A cowboy? Great day of the trumpet! I'm gwine to give notice sure. I simply ain't gwine to cook for no cowboy. No, ma'am.
He's a friend of Mr. Early's. His picture is a dream, and he's worth a lot of money. Me for Mr. Cowboy.
Do you reckon that he'll be liberal with any of that money?
You bet he will. You can count on 10 from him for sure.
Aunt Paradise, slowly smiling.
I guess I'll stay. Who else is coming?
I think that's all. Oh, no, there's Miss Longnecker.
Miss Longnecker? How come they invite her to this wedding?
Oh, she's Amy's old school teacher.
Aunt Paradise, looking at screen.
What's that parlor screen doing out here in the front yard?
Why, Paradise, don't you know what that's out here for? Last night, everyone came out to see the moon. And when you look at the moon, you've got to look in couples. And when you look in couples, you need screens. I know.
I never yet saw a wedding that wasn't the starting point of about half a dozen other weddings. That Mr. Billy Jackson sure is a flirtatious man. He sure is.
That's the truth, Paradise. He's got 3 strings in his bow.
Aunt Paradise, counting on fingers.
Miss Gwendolyn and Miss Doris. And who else?
Why, the widow, of course.
Who that?
Mrs. Klinger. Little Angel's mama.
You don't tell me. Is she setting her cap for him, too?
Yes, her widow's cap.
And what you reckon he's in love with?
In love? Billy Jackson doesn't know what love means.
I'll sure be glad when all this here wedding doings is over. It's too much excitement for old Aunt Paradise.
Angelina appears on steps. Angelina, coming down centre.
Well, you two are taking it easy, I must say.
Lulu, rising quickly.
Ha! Little girls should be seen and not heard.
Tell it to Sweeney. Say, Aunt Paradise, where's the bunch?
Aunt Paradise, rising with difficulty.
Where's the what?
The bunch. Ma and Mr. Billy and the bride and groom and the whole sideshow.
Lulu, dusting at right.
They've gone riding.
And they didn't take me? They sneaked off. That's what they did. Sent me down to the post office to mail some letters. That's a nice way to treat me. I won't be the ring bearer in the old wedding now, so I won't. I don't care if the old ring don't never get bored.
Lulu, when you all get done cleaning, come down in the kitchen. I got something to tell you.
Limps to porch.
Something about BILLYJACKSON.
Billy Jackson. I guess I can spell Billy Jackson if I am only 8. Go on and tell her all your old secrets about Billy Jackson. I know something worth 2 of that.
That child gwine upset this here whole house. She sure is.
Want to know what I know at Paradise? Well, I'll tell you. I saw you give those little pickaninnies that fried chicken and that angel cake last night.
Hush your talk, you. That child sure gwine in bad. She sure is. I never give no pickaninnies nothing. The idea. Why, child, I's a sustaining member of the Daughters of Zion, I is. You all better hush your talk, or I'll have the old conjure woman take you away in her big black bag and bury you deep in the graveyard.
Skidoo to you. Tell those fairy tales to Sweeney.
Great day of the trumpet. Ain't she scandalous? That child sure gonna end bad. She sure is.
Exit into house at left, muttering.
You ought to be ashamed to worry old Aunt Paradise so.
Is that so? Well, you look out that I don't worry you.
Ha! You don't know anything about me.
Oh, don't I?
Imitates Lulu's voice.
Mr. Jackson, how dare you kiss me? I guess that'll hold you for a while.
What? When did you hear that?
Yesterday in the hall, and if Mr. Jackson don't give me a big box of chocolates and 50 cents and a new hair ribbon of now green, I'll tell everybody what I heard and what I saw.
Lulu, coming close to her.
Oh, I'd like to shake you.
You forget yourself, and besides, you're afraid.
You'd better keep your eyes on your game, Mama, instead of on other people.
I'll tell Mama what you said.
Lulu, losing her temper and speaking loudly.
If you dare to, I'll...
Enter Mr. Malachi Meek from centre. Malachi coming down centre and speaking to Angelina, who is right centre.
Ah, good morning, little lady.
Good morning, Uncle Malachi.
Malachi, smiling.
Have you a little kiss for me this morning?
Sure I have. Have you a little quarter for me?
No, I haven't. I like little girls to kiss me for myself alone.
Try Lulu there. I ain't that kind.
Skips to porch.
Lulu's had more experience than I have.
Laughs.
Morning, Uncle Malachi.
Runs off left. Lulu, singing as she arranges pillows down right.
Nothing's worthwhile but dreams of you, dearie, my dearie.
Malaki, straightening up, looking at Lulu, putting on specs, looking again, taking out bandana handkerchief and flirting it at her quickly, then looking around to see if anyone is looking. Lulu sings all through this, but glances at him now and then coquettishly.
Lovely morning.
It is so. If you love me, don't be bashful. Take my little hand in thine. If you want a kiss, just ask me. I'm sure I won't decline.
Malaki, making a funny slide to her at right.
Good morning, my dear.
Lulu, affecting surprise.
Oh, why, it's Mr. Meek.
And how is little Lulu Wooloo this morning?
Lulu, dropping eyes bashfully.
Oh, Mr. Meek.
I had so much trouble in tying my necktie this morning. Does it look right?
You need a little more on this side.
Arranges it. He slips his arm around her waist.
Fix it pretty, little Lulu.
Why, Mr. Meek, look at your arm.
Can't. I'm looking at your eyes.
Starts to kiss her. Mrs. Perrington Shine appears on porch. Mrs. Perrington Shine, looking through lorgnette.
Why, Father, I'm surprised.
Yes, I'm somewhat surprised myself.
Lulu, you may go into the house. I'll speak to you later.
Comes down to centre.
He just asked me to tie his tie.
Crosses backstage to porch.
That will do.
Yes'm.
Exit in house, tossing her head.
Now, Father, what was the meaning of that?
Simplest thing in the world. She was just tying my tie.
You've been flirting with the servants.
Now, my dear Rosabella.
I shall have to discharge that girl. She's a designing creature. And to think it has come to this. You are old enough to be her grandfather.
That's just it. She's the most innocent girl in the world.
She's about as innocent as you are.
Now, Rosabella.
Don't speak to me. My own father actually flirting.
The poor little thing was only doing me a favour.
I'll discharge her at once.
You'll do nothing of the sort.
Father, you forget yourself.
It was just her sympathetic nature.
Laughter outside.
They're coming. We'll settle this matter later.
Yes, the later the better.
Down right with Mrs. Perrington Shine. Enter Billy Jackson, Gwendolen Perrington Shine, and Mrs. Ima Klinger from centre, laughing and chatting. Billy, coming down right centre, close to Mrs. Perrington Shine, but not seeing her. He is speaking to Gwendolen, who comes down centre.
And the joke of the whole thing was that she knew he was a married man all the time.
Gwendolen, not seeing Mrs. Perrington Shine.
Oh, Mr. Jackson, you are so funny.
Mr. Jackson?
Billy, his face changing from smiles to sobriety, he turns slowly and faces Mrs. Perrington Shine.
Good morning, Mrs. Shine.
Mrs. Perrington Shine, please.
Excuse me, Mrs. Perrington Shine.
Malaki has crossed up centre and is conversing with Mrs. Klinger in pantomime.
That must have been a very humorous story you were telling my daughter, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, indeed, Mamma. It was. It was about...
I was speaking to Mr. Jackson, Gwendolen?
Yes, it was a great story. It was about a barber named...
I trust that it was a moral story, Mr. Jackson.
Moral? Oh, yes. Yes. There was a bully moral to it. In fact, that was the best thing about it.
Gwendolen, I think you had better dress for lunch. We are expecting some other guests this morning.
Yes, Mamma.
Mrs. Perrington Shine, crossing to porch.
Father?
Yes, Rosabella?
It's time for you to take your tonic. This raw morning air doesn't agree with you, and you know it.
Billy and Gwendolen busily engaged down right centre, talking.
I'll be there in a moment.
Don't let me keep you, dear Mr. Meek.
Father?
Coming.
Crosses to left centre, upstage.
You'll excuse me, Mrs. Klinger.
Of course. We'll resume our conversation in the conservatory right after lunch.
Right after lunch? In the conservatory?
Gwendolen?
Coming, Mamma.
Crosses to porch. Mrs. Perrington Shine, aside to Gwendolen.
You know my feeling regarding Mr. Jackson. I hope I won't have to speak to you again.
But he's so interesting and tells such funny stories.
A mere clerk. I can't see why Brighton ever invited him to become one of the wedding party.
Sees Malarkey talking to Mrs. Klinger.
Father!
Yes, Rosabella, I'm coming.
Crosses to porch.
Don't forget that you are 69.
Exit in house. Gwendolen on steps.
Goodbye, Mr. Jackson.
See you at lunch.
Malarkey comes back to Mrs. Klinger. Gwendolen pausing at door, bashfully.
I enjoyed your story so much.
Wait till you hear the second chapter.
Mrs. Perrington Shine in house.
Gwendolen!
Yes, Mamma.
Runs in left. Mrs. Klinger to Malarkey.
Don't forget the conservatory.
Laughs.
Right after lunch. Over the river.
Waves his hand gaily to Mrs. Klinger and starts towards steps rapidly. Sudden twinge of rheumatism causes him to pause in agony. Then exits slowly, limping up steps and off left. Mrs. Klinger, coming down left centre.
I'm afraid Mr. Meek sometimes forgets that he is 69.
Billy, meeting her at centre.
Some ladies are fascinating enough to make Methuselah forget his age.
Mrs. Klinger, playfully striking him with crop.
Flatterer.
I've been waiting all morning to tell you that.
But you were too busy with Miss Perrington Shine, with the accent on the shine.
She's a cute little kid, isn't she?
Yes, and so interesting. I love to hear her say, "Yes, Mama." Does she ever say anything else, Mr. Jackson?
Ah, put a poison label on that, mister. I'm just plain Billy.
Well, Billy, then.
Enter Brighton Early and Miss Amy Lee from centre. They come slowly down right, arm in arm. Billy at left.
Hello, here's the twin Cupids. Got here at last, did you? Took you half an hour to walk from the stable here.
I'm afraid I must go in, Bright. Isn't it time to dress, Ima?
I suppose so. You excuse me, won't you, Billy?
Billy. Hello. She calls him Billy.
What's the difference? Aren't we all in the same wedding party?
You needn't think that you're the whole show just because you are the groom.
I'm satisfied. I wouldn't trade places with any man on earth.
Amy, giving his arm a playful little shake.
Bright, don't be silly.
Mrs. Klinger, going on steps.
Come, Amy, let's leave them to their cigarettes. See you after lunch, Billy.
Sure thing. In the conservatory?
Oh, I forgot the conservatory. That's reserved for 69.
Laughs and exit into house left. Brighton, crossing with Amy to steps.
Hurry, dear. I'll wait right here.
It will only take me 10 minutes.
It will seem an hour.
Silly boy.
Blows a kiss at Brighton and exits into house left. Billy down right.
I caught that one, Bright.
Sits.
Yes, you did.
Comes to right intermediate exit and sits.
Billy, old man, do you know that I'm the happiest fellow in the world? The wide, wide world.
Billy, sprawling and smoking cigarette.
That's what they all say.
They? Who?
Oh, you know, those who are engaged and all that sort of thing.
Every time I see Amy, I find something new to adore about her. I never knew what it meant to love a girl till now.
Cut the comedy and remember whom you're talking to.
I mean real, serious love. Oh, of course there have been other girls.
Yes, there have been other girls.
But never another one like Amy. Amy Lee. Why, her very name's poetry.
Billy, to audience.
And he used to be the star fullback of the state.
And her style. Billy, did you ever notice Amy's style? I always did adore that tender, wistful style.
I remember when you adored quite another style.
Oh? What's the use of talking about old times?
Dodo was a pretty little thing, wasn't she?
You're right, Billy, she was. And she had the dreamiest eyes, and the freshest lips, shaped like a Cupid's bow. And say, Billy, do you remember how her hair used to curl over her ears? And the walks down by the lake, and the little suppers after the theatre, and the cute, careless little ways of her when she was on the stage. Doe was some girl, but nothing to be compared to Amy. You see, I'm going to marry Amy.
How soft you used to be about Dodo. You used to say that your love was like an ocean with a kiss on every wave.
Did I say that?
You know you did.
That's pretty good. I'll have to hand it to Amy.
I wonder if Doe is still in St. Paul.
I suppose so. The last I heard, she was playing leads with the Cummerson stock. The matinee girls rave over her.
Ever hear from her?
Oh, of course not. That's a nice question to put to me.
I beg your pardon. But when one's love is like an ocean with a kiss on every wave, you know.
Even the ocean creeps out at low tide.
And the poor little waves snuggle down and go to sleep.
Don't be so sentimental.
Rises.
We better dress for lunch.
Billy, rising.
What time is it?
Brighton, feeling in his pocket.
Oh, by Jove!
What is it?
My watch. It's gone. I know I had it this morning.
Searches pockets and looks round stage. Billy, searching.
Probably you lost it while riding.
I'll have the groom look for it.
You don't suppose anyone touched you for it, do you?
Brighton, hesitatingly.
No.
Blamed queer. You know, I missed my pearl crop this morning.
That's so. Funny, isn't it?
Well, not so blamed funny.
No, but it's a coincidence. I'll have Riley saddle the filly, and See if I can find it on the road. Come along?
Goes up left.
No, I'll wait here.
I'd hate to lose that watch.
Exit centre to left.
Poor old Bright. He'll lose his head next. No, he can't do that. He's lost it already. A man about to be married doesn't know whether he's alive or dead. Poor old Bright.
Enter Miss Doris Ruffles, centre, with a basket full of daisies. Doris, coming down centre, humming a song. She sees Billy.
Hello, Billy.
Billy, coming to her.
Hello, Angel Cake. How's the headache?
I didn't have a headache. That was a bluff. I didn't care to ride.
What? Didn't care to ride? With me?
With you and Gwendolyn and Mrs. Klinger and Amy. This wedding party has so many girls in it that it looks like a suffragettes convention.
The more the merrier.
Wait till some more men come. Then you'll find that there are other birdies on Luella's hat.
I hope that it will make any difference between us, no matter how many men come.
Wait and see. You've been mighty attentive to Gwendolyn, to say nothing of Mrs. Klinger. I'm a Klinger. I'm a Klinger. Pretty name, isn't it?
Now, Doris, you know I think of no one else but you.
I know you do.
He tries to take her hand.
That is, when I'm here.
Shakes her forefinger at him.
Billy Jackson, you're a flirt. Prisoner at the bar, are you guilty or not guilty?
Billy, holding up left hand.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Doris, turning away.
Not that it makes any difference to me. Of course not. I'm used to flirts. But poor little Gwendolyn and poor little Mrs. Klinger. It's lucky for us that this party lasts only 3 days.
That's the way with every good thing in life. But you're going to let me come to Columbus and see you, aren't you?
Columbus? That shows that you are a flirt. It's Mrs. Klinger who lives in Columbus. I live in Scranton.
Oh, of course. I meant Scranton. Every time I say Columbus, I mean Scranton. They're so much alike. High Street and Lackawanna Avenue, you know. I always did get those two towns mixed up.
Yes, and sometimes you get the girls mixed up too.
Doris, that's unkind.
Doris, holding basket up.
See what I've been doing this morning while you were riding?
She pulls open back chair to centre and, kneeling beside it, arranges daisies.
I've been gathering daisies.
Billy, kneeling back of chair, facing audience. Note, the garden chair used must have an opening in back large enough to admit Billy's head.
You gathered me weeks ago.
Doris, with her face close to back of chair.
But you aren't a daisy.
Billy, putting his head through chair's back.
No, but you gathered me just the same.
Doris, plucking petals.
He loves me not. He loves me.
Sighs. Billy, with his face close to hers.
He loves you.
He loves me not. Loves me not. Loves me not. He loves me, and here's the last one. He loves me not. Oh, Billy, he loves me not.
Billy, taking her hand.
Don't you believe it? He loves you better than anything else in the whole world.
About to kiss her. Enter Brighton quickly from centre. Brighton, seeing them.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Rushes into house left. Doris, rising quickly.
Oh, that was Mr. Early. What will he think?
Billy, rising, with chair around neck.
So it was. But we don't care what he thinks, do we?
Advances toward her at right.
Why, Mr. Jackson, you look like you were in the pillory.
Billy, removing chair.
But it's just like Bright. Got to come butting in every time I talk to a girl.
Has he ever caught you before?
Now, you know he hasn't.
Comes close to her.
You know that I think that you...
Takes her hand. Enter Angelina from house. She runs to centre.
Oh, I saw you, I saw you, I saw you, and I'm going to tell.
Doris running to steps.
Now see what you've done. Billy Jackson, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Runs into house at left.
Angelina, come here.
Won't do it.
You're a nice little girl, ain't you?
Yes, I am. And I'm a wise little girl, too.
You're not going to tell anyone what you just saw now, are you?
Oh, ain't I?
Not if you're a wise little girl. You see, I know the land where the chocolate drops grow.
Angelina coming to him.
Now you're talking business.
And I'll bring you a big box right after lunch.
How big a box?
Oh, a great big box.
5 pounds?
Well, maybe.
It's got to be 5 pounds and bittersweets.
Very well, little angel.
Then I won't tell what I saw just now.
That's a good little girl.
But I saw something yesterday.
Billy alarmed.
What did you see?
You know you and Lulu the maid, and she is a Lulu too.
For goodness sakes, don't say anything about that. And I'll buy you the whole candy store.
I heard her in the hall. She said, Mr. Jackson, don't you dare to kiss me.
You must have been mistaken.
I'm never mistaken. I want a new hair ribbon too. Nile green.
I'll get you one.
And a sash.
And a sash.
Say, if I were you, I'd catch just one girl and keep her.
Oh, would you?
Yes, and I'd get the one with the most money.
Out of the mouths of babes.
I ain't a babe. I'm nearly 9. I must go now. I won't tell on you. Honest, I won't.
Angelina, what pretty eyes you've got.
Angelina drawing herself up.
That'll do now, Mr. Jackson. Don't you try to flirt with me. I already have a steady.
Runs to porch.
And he don't allow no foolishness.
Runs into house left.
Ain't she the angel child? I'll have to wire Dad for more money if I stay around here much longer. It's too bad folks don't leave their angels at home when they go to wedding parties.
Enter Aunt Paradise from house. She limps down to centre.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Early done sent me out here to find you and ask you, would you please go over to the depot and meet the 1 o'clock train? Some of the jets is coming in, and he say he busy with Miss Amy.
All right, Auntie, I'll go right over.
Aunt Paradise holding out her hand for a tip.
'Scuse me, Mr. Jackson, ain't you done forgot something?
Well, why, yes. I came near forgetting my hat. Much obliged, Aunt Paradise.
Takes hat from table and exits centre to left. Aunt Paradise looking very disgusted.
Ain't that exasperating? Some folks that I knows ain't got the manners of a watermelon.
Hobbles to porch.
They sure ain't, and that's the law's truth.
Exit into house at left. Enter Mrs. Longnecker, centre. She minces down centre.
I wonder if I'm too early for luncheon. I just met the sweetest man going down the lane, and he looked right at me. I suppose he was one of the wedding party, and he was all dressed up in a riding suit, and he looked right at me. I certainly am a lucky, lucky girl to be invited to the Meek House. Folks always say it's such good luck to be in a wedding party. To think of little Amy Lee going to be married, a mere infant. It wasn't so very long ago that I was teaching her the ABCs in the public school, and now she is to be a bride tomorrow. Ah, hey-ho.
Amy and Brighton appear on porch in mourning costumes. Amy running down centre.
Why, it's Miss Longnecker.
Amy.
She kisses her.
So glad to have you over to luncheon.
Mrs. Longnecker, holding Amy's hands and looking at her.
So this is the little bride?
Yes, and here's the little groom. Bright, come here. I want you to know one of my dearest friends. Miss Longnecker, this is Mr. Early. Mr. Brighton Early.
Mrs. Longnecker, shaking hands with him.
Delighted, Mr. Early, and congratulations. But we never can forgive you for taking our little Amy away from us.
Lucky fellow, ain't I?
You certainly are.
You'll make me blush in a minute. Miss Longnecker is my old school teacher, dear.
Yes.
And not so very old either.
Oh, Mr. Early.
We received your kind remembrance this morning. It was so dear of you, and just what we wanted, wasn't it, Bright?
Yes, indeed.
I thought you would like it. Something useful as well as ornamental. I always give useful wedding presents.
I'm sure you do.
Did it come through the mail all right? I'm a little bit doubtful of this parcel post affair.
Oh, yes, it came all right. Not cracked or chipped at all.
Cracked or chipped? I'm afraid I don't understand.
I mean that it arrived all right.
I don't believe that you know what I sent.
Oh, yes, we do. It was so appropriate, and it will look lovely in our little flat.
Look lovely in your flat?
She means that it is becoming to her style.
Becoming to her style?
And you were such a dear to think of anything so dainty.
My wedding present was a new patent lawnmower.
Yes, we knew. We were both delighted. Every time I mow our lawn, I'll remember you.
Miss Longnecker, aside to Amy.
Oh, isn't he a dear?
You must come in and meet the rest of the party.
Who is to be the best man?
Billy Jackson. Haven't you ever met Billy?
Not yet, but I think I've just seen him. I met a young man going down the lane just now, and he looked right at me.
Oh, that's Billy.
He looked perfectly charming.
Yes, that's a little way that Billy has.
And I fancy I saw another one of the wedding guests at the post office this morning. She was very pretty, and wore a tan and red walking dress, with a gorgeous red hat trimmed in poppies.
I don't think she belongs here.
It was a kind of an actressy hat, and, begging my pardon, she came over to me and asked me if I could tell her where Mr. Early was stopping. She looked like an actress.
Brighton, alarmed.
An actress?
She carried a little white poodle trimmed with green ribbons.
Brighton, aside.
White poodle? It's Dodo. Great heavens!
I told her how to find the place. Probably she's a friend of yours, Mr. Early.
I don't recognize the description.
I was sure you wouldn't. Possibly she is an agent. But, Miss Longnecker, come with me, and I'll show you your room. It's nearly time for lunch.
Crosses to porch.
Thank you.
Follows her to porch and then turns.
I'll see you at lunch, Mr. Early.
Exit in house. Amy blowing a kiss.
Bye-bye, Bright.
Exit.
A little white poodle trimmed with green ribbons, and looks actressy.
Sinks in chair.
It's Dodo, and she's here. There's going to be a rumpus. I know there is. I can feel it in my bones. If Dodo ever meets Amy and Mrs. Parrington Shine, oh, great Scott! And I thought that this was going to be the happiest week of my life.
End of Act 1, Part 1.